evening who strips you of your job by downsizing your company and selling off all the goods, but then recommends you for a snap card so you can buy butter at Big Y or Stop and Shop. It's us, American Scouts of TV Thursday Night Podcast with Brian and Trevor as always, and zero plant because we're rebels like that, and the plant never existed. For anybody who's wondering, it was a figment of everybody's imagination. But we have a few things to talk about tonight. Brian, how are we?
Exhausted, but still good.
Trevor, how are we?
Yeah, hanging in there in all regards. Yeah.
We have three topics to talk about tonight. We won't do the graphic thing because I think Brian has a good one there that I didn't just think about. But we'll talk about Darwin Núñez. Let's put the graphic up anyway because it took me a bit of time to do it. Darwin, his situation, especially with the Instagram photograph removal thing. We'll talk a little bit about Arnie Slot, and then we'll talk about the game. But the nice little funny pun is heroes and villains. So we'll talk about probably the real villains of the entire season, which will be the referees and VAR. Alan Walnut says, good evening, Alan, to you as well, as always. Well, let's start with Darwin Núñez, because he's our favourite topic of discussion on the Thursday Night Podcast, or ASTV if you're one of the cool kids. Brian and Trevor, he removed his... I haven't even checked to see if he's even put them back up, but apparently due to abuse his family has suffered... online by morons, essentially. He has removed all Liverpool-related photographs from his Instagram. My thinking is it a petulant reaction or is it an indication that he has said to his agent, right, I'm Gonski, and start looking for a new club for me, Brian? What do you think?
I mean, these guys' social media is really managed by by a whole group of conglomerate of people that they have, PR people and stuff like that. I mean, I see his point right there. You know, I don't think anybody should be abusing people's families. I don't think they should be abusing personal things right there. But, you know, criticism on the pitch is legitimate criticism. And, you know, and I'm sorry that we all here give legitimate criticism about things like there. But there's no way I would abuse his family or, you know, or ask for things that are so completely ridiculous. You know, like you know, talk about his wife or his kids. That's absurd. And that, you know, those people aren't really real supporters or real fans of any football club. And Jurgen Klopp was right with what he said about the statement. But I think that's maybe just like kind of a slap. You know, hey, guys, if you don't appreciate me, then, you know, okay, fine. I can just go ahead and just move on with my life right there. But in the end, right there, I don't think there's anything of this right there. I don't think he's going to go to Barcelona because he was signed at Barcelona, or he's going to go this place or that place. I mean, I said on the comments on Monday, I'm pretty positive that he is going to be a part of the Liverpool squad next season. I think that that he deserves another chance with another manager right there. Yeah, he's got his issues, but he does have one thing that's good for him is that his contribution right there is incredible. I mean, he really does. Should he score more? Absolutely. But for what he creates and things like that, he's a good utility player, a good solid player. I just question his ability to be a number 9.
Trevor, what do you think of the idea that he might get a chance with Arnie Slot? It looks today like goodbyes were essentially being said with Thiago, at least between him and the treatment room. We are getting inclinations and indications that Salah will stay and that Van Dijk came out and said he wants to be there through the transition to the new manager at least. So it looks like the squad will not be torn apart and then have to build from scratch. Is it a case that maybe Núñez will look at it and will say, you know what, I'll give it another chance with the new manager. He might be able to figure something out that gets the best out of me. Because as bad as the online stuff was, and as much as we may carp on every Thursday night about Darwin Núñez, we've also constantly said we want him to do well, and we do love all of the other great things he brings to the team. We just wish he could hit Snow off the rope when he's 2 yards in front of the goal. But the fans in the stadium have not expressed any sort of dissatisfaction with him at all, to my knowledge, and he is very well supported at Anfield. Could that be, Trevor, the card that makes him go, the trump card part of the poem that says, I'm going to give it one more chance because these fans support me when I'm doing great, but they also support me when I'm not.
Yeah, I think this whole situation has kind of unraveled in a very just unsavory way, and that's what you get a lot of times with people who decide to take something as simple as football criticism and bring it down a really dark path. The fact that he had to go through all that and had to take those steps, whether it be him personally or him going to his agent, take all these down because of all the abuse he's getting. Yeah, that's something that no human, never mind a professional footballer, should have to deal with. That type of vitriol, and it's just something where you really wish that these, and it's a plea that will always go unanswered, that these social media companies, when somebody is dealing with something like that, go and make an example of these trolls, this human garbage, and really just find a way to make sure that they are unable to do anything on the platform ever again. If you're forcing somebody's hand to do this, like you shouldn't be allowed to like interact with society anymore. Like just a gigantic, just fuck you to all those people that forced him to do this. But on the second half of the whole thing with him potentially leaving.
Let me get it straight. The second half of the longest question ever asked. We're going to confirm that with the Guinness Book of Records by the end of the show.
I'm gonna try to not follow it up with the longest filibuster and get to the end of this show with just this answer. I'm going to. Our thing, and we've said it a million times over. Our thing with Nunez is a frustration from his end product. It's never been a question of hustle or desire or commitment or anything. It's always just been, hey man, just can you hit the target? Like you said, like can you hit a sitter from 3 yards? Can you get a ball that's put on your head and just not hit the post? I think that is the big crux of our issues with Darwin Nunez that crop up so much. And if it comes to a point where he has reached critical mass and doesn't view this situation as tenable anymore in terms of what he thinks his role would be with a new manager, or if the buzzing of the flies online outweighs the cheers of the people in the stadium, then I don't know. I'm not in his inner circle. I don't know how his brain works from that sense, if he can kind of just compartmentalize those two camps. I hope that he would be willing to give it a go with Slot, because all signs point to there being a formation change, and if anything, that would give him more free reign at the top, which could, with the way he just runs around like a psychopath, probably be best for him.
Brian, is it possible that his concentration is always being lost? The pace of the English league, the pace of the Premier League, or is it possible that he loses his concentration because he spends so much time trying to do "I'm a little teapot," as we can see from that picture there. But for Darwin Nunez, Slot plays a different system to Jurgen Klopp. It's not quite as rigid a 4-3-3. There's a lot of freedom in it. And it seems from what I've seen, from what I've looked at, is that the number 9 doesn't have to be the number 9 if he doesn't want to be the number 9. There's got to be position switches. There's got to be a lot of, like, there's a very basic structure, which we'll talk about when we talk about Arne Slot. But essentially, there's a defensive structure, and then everything ahead of it is what the hell's going on, which is prime Jurgen Klopp heavy metal football, which we've lost in the last few years, and probably the ideal that Brendan Rodgers was always striving to get to, but he just can't because he's too obsessed with the possession part. But this seems almost like the happy medium. If you're Darwin Núñez, if you put away all the psychology stuff and the disappointment that comes with having your family attacked by faceless unknowns, essentially. If your people are smart enough to say the fans actually do, the real fans, they love you. Maybe Luis Suarez gives him a text or a call and says, look, no fans will back you like the Liverpool fans at Anfield will. Stadium to stadium, regardless of what you do. Thank you, Mr. Suarez. We have a perfect example of that. But that little bit of freedom, do you think maybe that will unlock what we have, I think, discussed before, is an overthinking for Darwin Núñez? Maybe that freedom will release all that anxiety, and we'll see the Darwin Núñez that we've seen in the YouTube clips at 17, smashing goals in from 25 yards and actually tapping them in occasionally well from 2.
Well, I said this right there. I think that it's definitely a finishing issue with Núñez, but it's also a coaching issue. I mean, it also goes back to what are they doing with fine tuning these players? Because we've said, everybody's here said since we got Darwin Núñez, he's a raw talent. He's a raw talent. Eventually, a raw talent has to go in there and get chiseled away and become what you expect the number 9 to be. And right now, unfortunately, right there, this raw talent is still a raw talent. We're going on now, coming up 2 years. I mean, now that we've basically dealt with the same exact type of Darwin Núñez, I mean, that we're dealing with. Will freedom actually help him out? I think that he's a good. I think we see a better Darwin Núñez on the left than we've seen him going up to the forward. But also, we say the same thing about Gapco, that we see a better Gapco on the left. So I guess maybe having a false 9 right there possibly maybe would work right there, where you have intermoving parts right there, kind of like how we did with Bobby Firmino and Mane and Salah, but in a different type of 3. I don't know. I think that we just give Núñez at least one more season right there to try to figure out, with a different coaching staff and a different group of people right there, to harness them and utilize them in a different manner. I think that the freedom of movement right there is probably going to be better for like our number 10s, like Carvalho and Elliott, than I think it will be for the guys who are going to be in the front. I mean, I think that those guys are still going to be, you still have to have that rigidness up front. I mean, in my opinion, right there, or at least some type of transition to that upper third of the pitch. So, I mean, I wanted to give Núñez another shot. I don't think this whole flirtation thing he's going on with Barcelona. He doesn't fit Barcelona's system either. I mean, he's not a tiki-taka type of footballer. I mean, so that whole thing's out the window right there. I think that it's more or less, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my buddy and watch a match. That's all the Barcelona thing was. And I think that people blow things, namely the media, blows shit out of proportion. I mean, I think that if a footballer wants to go look at a football match, great. Just like Jose Mourinho was in our stands last time. Fantastic. Okay, so he's sitting in the stands. Who cares? I mean, but with Núñez, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, again, it's just basics. I mean, and that's the thing right there is, I mean, if you can score a world-class goal, why can't you score a fucking basic goal? I mean, this is the same as complaint that like repeating Trevor and repeating us almost every single week right there. Do basic stuff. It's like that meme with the guy with the stick poking it, and we're like poking Darwin Núñez saying, "Hey, go do stuff." I mean, like, and that stuff is score goals. All the other background work that you do, we love it. The crowd loves it. Anfield loves it. We all love watching Núñez run and go at people and do these twists and turns. being committed to the process, to the cause. But in the end run, you're a number 9. Be a number 9.
Trevor, for Darwin Núñez, is he? I mean, he has the right to react the way he did. He absolutely has the right to do that with his family being targeted. But is there enough intelligence in there? Because I have said before, he reminds me a little bit of Andy Carroll, and Andy Carroll wasn't the brightest, sharpest tool in the box. Darwin Núñez may be a little bit like that, where he gets over upset about. I mean, it's hard to say over upset because if somebody was targeting my wife online, you know, I'd be giving him all the email addresses. Only kidding, before I get divorced. But is it possible that he hasn't been too happy, and maybe this is the kind of the boiling point that he needs to say, I want to leave Anfield, and here's a non-soccer reason that lets me out of this without losing the faith of the fans?
Yeah, it's something that could very well be used as a ripcord if that's where his head's really at, and I don't think anybody who's like a functioning human being could like fault him for that. If this is something where you're unhappy, and it's not unhappy of like, I'm not getting the right amount of minutes, or this guy was mean to me at a training. And it's something where if you don't think you can be your best and maximize your usefulness to a club, and if it's best for both parties for you to move on, then that's gonna be what comes to pass. And for him, he's a tough guy to read in that regard, because yes, he is very emotional on the pitch, and you can see that there's lots of things that can either get him super elated or super aggravated. There's lots of examples of both, but it would be a shame if this was the straw that broke the camel's back. A bunch of dog shit human beings on Instagram deciding to bring out the seedy underbelly of the fan community, and if that is what pushes him away and takes the possibility of him in slot system away from both him and Liverpool and us, I think would be a damn shame.
Just these two players that you're doing impressions of, were they both Benedict Cumberbatch by any chance?
If I could,
Cumberbatch.
Yeah, if I could pull that one off at this stage of the day, then maybe my brain just like disassociates, and I just go into like a weird half Cockney, half BBC One radio mode, and then I just what I say afterwards. It's a good thing we're recording, because then I just wouldn't remember. It would just be a fugue state.
Hello, my name is Darwin Núñez. I'm here to play soccer. That's probably how he sounds in real life. So I think we all agree, though, that the best thing to happen would be for him to be happy to want to give us another year at Anfield to see how it works out. And if it doesn't work out, I think everybody could say he's given it a try. And if it does work out, and he does so well that a Barcelona or a Bayern or Real Madrid want to take him, then we're probably going to benefit from that, points-wise and trophies-wise. But it would be a crying shame, Brian, wouldn't it, if he decides, to pack it in at the end of this season?
Absolutely. Nobody wants to see a player leave in that type of that way. I mean, I think he still has a lot to offer. I mean, if you really look at his stats aren't bad. I mean, he's actually fairly decent. I mean, with his production that he's done. I mean, I just don't like again, like there, it's the basics that we talked about right there. But I think that having him have another shot with another manager right there and see what a different coaching technique and what maybe that could unlock something out of him. I want to see that happen. I want Nunez to succeed. It's kind of like exactly what Steven said right there. I want him to succeed. I want any player that's been in our uniform in our kit to succeed, except for maybe El Hadji Diouf, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, you want the best for our squad.
Just for future reference there, Brian, because I'm the host, so I'm the boss. You have to communicate in advance what you're going to be wearing so that I don't wear the exact same thing. Because otherwise, look, you can't tell the difference. Which one is which?
Yep. Hey, we're doppelgangers tonight.
So speaking of doppelgangers, our actually have Trevor just being the odd one out as always. Our doppelganger, the next new manager, apparently, I don't think anybody's heard anything to the contrary, and it is the worst kept secret in soccer, possibly. Arne Slot, I watched some of the Feyenoord the other night. It's hard to tell with the Dutch league because everybody in the Dutch league plays the same type of soccer. Trevor, my question is, there's a lot of positives to Arne Slot tactically that coming in that will enhance what we have with Klopp, change what we probably have all talked about needs to be changed a little bit. But is he destined to fall into the same trap as a Frank de Boer or Louis van Gaal in not realizing that the Premier League is a different beast? English football is a different beast because you can have 20 teams in a division and all 20 teams will play an entirely different style of soccer as opposed to the Eredivisie where pretty much everybody plays the same way.
Yeah, I think that's an argument that could be made, but I look at a guy like Frank de Boer who seemed to just be unnecessarily stubborn in a lot of instances, and his run at Crystal Palace was a thing of sheer terror in terms of just what happened after and what happened before, because there was just, there didn't seem to be much of, we're just bringing in this guy, what his plan is. Hey, we'll figure it out afterwards. Whereas I think Slot is a guy that went to Feyenoord and there was not necessarily a plan, but there was things in play where it's like, okay, you're going to get these players and we're going to play this way, but put like your spin on it. And I think with this current roster, I think just that fresh coat of paint would do a lot of good after the Klopp tenure of there's no wiggle room. There's no just room for a week-to-week change or something like that, which is, I don't think and like I said, this is all coming from very minimal eyes on the product and trying to take the word of people who've been exposed to his style a lot more frequently than I have. It seems that there's going to be more of putting people and I don't want to put this as like a slight to Klopp of like putting people in the positions to succeed. And it's something where you're like, okay, he has this system that has worked for so long, but there came a point where you were putting players in it that maybe didn't necessarily fit the way that the people that you originally had. Like trying to do a like for like with like Gakpo and Nunez for Bobby was just never going to work. So in taking Mane's work rate and trying to get somebody over there to kind of replicate everything that he did, unless you found that like for like, that was never going to work. So now I think what Slot's going to bring to the table is a guy that is going to see what he has and kind of mold together what he does with what his players do and kind of find that happy medium more than anything. And that's kind of what I'm excited about, to see how certain guys are deployed coming up against how they have been in these past couple of years.
Brian talked a bit earlier about the Arne Slot system. So we have a graphic for it here. So this is the game against Ajax. They beat them 6-0. It's clear. It's very clear what their shape is from their average positions. It's two central defenders. It's a number 6. The fullback's not going forward but tucking in. So instead of having one Trent, we have 2 Trents, and then width across the front with 5 players, essentially attacking the opposition's back 4. If you're looking at that shape, because it's fairly consistent, the only difference is sometimes he goes for a 4-2-3-1. Saidu will be happy. But if you're looking at that and you're thinking of the players we have, the only position there, would you agree that you would be problematic, would be the left back position, wouldn't it? Because Robertson is an out and out wing back. He's an out and out box to box old school fullback. So that would almost give us a hint as to what we might be looking to get in the transfer window, wouldn't it? A left-footed player who likes playing inside.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that would definitely be an issue right there to think about. But also you have to say that Robertson is slowing down a little bit right there. I mean, with this, I mean, he made some pretty dynamic runs since he came back from his injuries and stuff like that he's done. But a player that's at his age right there is going to slow down. It's going to actually try to start drawing themselves in a little bit more. But I think we already have some left backs right there, not Simicast, but that could actually go and fill that type of role. I mean, I think that you have a young Luke Chambers right there who could actually go in that position. I mean, that you could bring up. I mean, so I think that you think in the long term right there, you do have players to do that. But I do think we're actually going to go shop for a more senior left back, kind of like a more transitional player. I think my biggest complaint right there that we made, that of all the things that we made during the Klopp era, is that we never really prepared and had transition players as in places right there when we needed to, especially after 2019-2020 season right there, where we should have probably been thinking about shifting some players on and putting some players in there to transition in between. And I think that's why we're in a kind of a spot that we're in right now, that left back spot, a spot we were in for a while with like Trent. I mean, now of course we got Bradley right there who's filling that role, but we had for a while where we just had to go depend on Gomez getting plug and played almost every single spot until Bradley miraculously made some kind of discovery of that. Okay, this guy's here, he can play. I mean, so. Yeah, I really think his system is going to benefit our Elliott and Carvalho. I think are going to thrive in his system. I really do. I think that it's a lot more freedom of movement right there for attacking midfielders in here and to set up play. And I mean, both those guys are playmakers. I mean, look at what Carvalho is doing right now in his loan spell. I mean, he did fantastic. I mean, so I think that I think Gapco's going to thrive with this. I think there's a lot of players who are going to thrive. I think that Diaz might not thrive with this system. I think that this may be a problem for Diaz, because Diaz is almost the same kind of thing like Robertson likes to make these runs constantly right there. And I don't think the system's set for runs. I mean, I think it's more of a kind of not hugging the touchline type of system, but more going in and moving in to drawing into the middle and bringing play back in through the box type of play. I mean, I think you're going to see. So I don't think that that's something that Diaz does well. I mean, I think that so it may be some players are going to move. I mean, I said it a couple weeks ago. I think you're going to see some high profile players move. I think that Diaz may be one of those players. Robertson might be one of those players. I don't know, but I think that you are going to see some shifting and moving out of this. But yeah, I think that left back is definitely going to be something we're going to have to look at in the long term future. But finding a left back is like, a left back's like a golden thing. I mean, I really wanted Lloyd Kelly. I thought Lloyd Kelly would be a fantastic fit for that system, but it's like Newcastle's already jumped on us on that right there. I think that would have been a pretty solid solid spot for him to be at.
Trevor, if we look at the midfield, the number 8 there in other games, he's been more of a defensive mid. So essentially, that player, that position is a box-to-box one. Just going by the players we have now, obviously, let's say Van Dijk, Kwanzaa as the central defenders in terms of form, because we've doubts about Kanate that we've expressed. Alisson in goal, obviously. Trent as where that number 2 is. Let's say Gomez, perhaps that number 4 spot. But the way that system seems to be set up, with the current players we have now, Endo and McAllister seem to be the ideal central midfield pairing for us. And that would suit McAllister's game almost, to be able to get up and down the field with freedom. Salah, where that 19 is, that's exactly where he is. But where the issue seems to be would be where the 10 and whatever the player underneath the 10 is. That from my understanding and working with average positions, that generally means those 2 players are moving a lot and covering a lot of crossover runs in the same spaces. So we really do have, and I hate to give Michael Edwards any credit ever because I'm not sure about the guy, but really we do have a team that could take to Arne Slot's system really, really quickly, don't we?
Yeah, and especially with the 2 up front, because you're going to have arguably, because I think Diaz is, one, got his head turned by Spain, and 2, I agree with Brian. I don't think he has a real place in this new system just because of what he does, and it is something where, yeah, if we can kind of be proactive for once instead of waiting to the last second and then just going, oh fuck, we gotta take 38 for him, and then try to parlay that into something else at the dying embers of a transfer window. Then yeah, what I see from the 2 players up front being on top of each other is, yeah, like you said, they can kind of be wherever they want to be, and if they both end up in those same spots at different points in the game, it's not the end of the world. So when you have 2 guys that prefer to be out on the left that are going to be asked to be in the middle on many occasions in Gakpo, Nunez, maybe that's something where they can come to like a gentleman's agreement where, like, hey, this time I see that I'm having better luck with the enter right back A here. I'm getting the better of him more frequently. Maybe I should be out there and be the playmaker on that side, and then you go in. And if it's vice versa, whereas my runs are causing him more trouble, or I can see a tell where I can kind of shimmy shake and get around him and be more productive over there, then we can just kind of flip flop. There's always that sense of you don't know who's going to be where at what time, so you can't really track us properly. That could be something that they could work into, and that's what training is for more than anything. And that's a positive, I think. If you have 2 guys that you can kind of just deploy in however fashion that you can kind of pick against, like, whatever opponent that you have. I'm trying to come in with renewed optimism for what this type of system could do with the players we have. And as Brian said, also, there are going to be, I think it's not going to be an exodus, but there is going to be a significant amount of roster turnover this year. But getting those 2 guys who have had huge dips in form but also heights in Gakpo and Nunez, getting the best out of both of them, maybe doing so simultaneously would do just wonders for this club.
Brian, will change slightly across from not from the tactics of what Arnie Slot will deal with, but I do want to say that as Trevor's insignia thing there says, we've 2 more games with Jurgen Klopp. It's going to be incredibly sad time when we get to that last game. But unlike other managerial changes of recent times, he's left us with a fantastic squad for the next manager to come in. Pretty much the way Houllier did when he was fired for Rafa Benitez. It's a good squad, and a good manager will be able to get a lot out of it. And it's exciting to see that would happen. But as much as he has to deal with a new squad, he's going to have to deal with the absolute ineptitude of the English referees and the way England VAR is run. And apparently now affecting the Champions League as well, going by what Tuchel was saying.
Trash.
It's. I've never liked VAR. I wasn't behind the idea when it was first proposed. I've never liked its implementation. Have we got enough evidence now, or am I just being an old fogey? But have we got enough evidence now to say that in its current form, it's hopeless, and we should probably go back to the old ways until they figure out a better way to do it?
Nope, you are correct. Absolutely spot on. Because I'm not against VAR. I'm against VAR being used the way it's being used at the moment. Because this is absurd. Yesterday, basically watching the Champions League semifinal just get bullshitted away right there. I mean, yeah, maybe Real Madrid may have won it toward the end right there on penalties or something like that. It could happen. Maybe I don't know. But to have Eliza come back after the end, it's like, yeah, I fucked up. I mean, come on, really? I mean, that's not even a thing. I mean, and we really thought this was like a problem just on us as a league right there. But you see this right there, it's happening everywhere. I haven't seen. By league, I have not seen any controversy with this MLS. I have not seen any VAR issues in MLS at the moment. And they actually had the fastest turnover on all their calls of VAR than the rest of the world. So I mean, I don't get it. I think that there's a lot of, I hate to go there and finger point corruption, but there's a lot of corruption somewhere in there. Something's shady. I could go back to so many things like on there. Our call right there against Spurs right there, where we came there and where we had Jones get sent off right there for something that we watched a match later. A guy did the same exact thing. Nothing happened. We watched another thing right there where we had a player get called offside that wasn't really offside, have an apology. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't count. I mean, when you're dealing with millions of dollars out there, sorry is not a pat on the back right there. You're messing with people's money. I mean, you're messing with people. You're messing with a fan base throughout the whole world, and no fan base is a bit immune to it. I mean, I've watched our bitterest rivals right there. You go get hit in the head with the same exact crap. I mean, so eventually right there, all these clubs need to go there, stand up right there through all the ineptitude of officiating throughout the world and say, hey, you know what? We've had enough. We've had enough. This is not working. It's time for you to come back to go until we get a system that is semi-automated or something right there where we have a whole group of people that can actually do it, or an official that actually goes and looks at the TV monitor on the side of the pitch and makes a fair decision. They scrap this shit. It's done. I mean, we're done. I mean, it's like if everybody, I've heard also these little things called Liverpool and stuff like that. But you know what? We got screwed over just as much as everybody. Everybody's been screwed over with this league right there. So quit the whole calling every fan base going to these little individual mobs right there and just come together and say, hey, you know what? This system sucks. I mean, stop. Let's get it fixed. Then let's go back to it because we all want to do it. We all want fair results. I mean, and to go there to have a result right there, and I'll even go on the offside rule right there because I'm glad we're going semi-automated with the offside rule. If I'm a knuckle offside from you, is that going to really make a difference right there whether a goal's scored or not? I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't make a difference. I think that we've gone against what the rules of the game were established with. We've gone against all this right there. We're throwing too much technology into it that doesn't support the rules of the game.
Brian, do you think that MLS calls are so unintrusive because they're like going, was that offside? Nobody cares. Nobody's watching. Let's just say it was. Let's just tell the ref it was.
No, it's like, oh, it was outside. Oh no, Messi scored and scored. Oh no, don't worry, Messi had another assist. Oh no, don't worry about that.
Trevor, let me ask you this. There's been threats of that Super League with another idea that I'm way not in favor of, but it is nonetheless an existential threat to the way the leagues are currently run. It's an existential threat to FIFA and UEFA. You would think with that threat on the horizon, even if it was rejected, it's still in there. It's still in the shadows, lurking and waiting for its opportunity. You would think that they would get the one thing that they need for the game to run, which is the rules and the application of the rules or laws, if you want to be technical. You would think they would get that right and not piss off the clubs that can easily just say, you know what, we've had enough of this. We're off to this other league over here where we won't have to worry about it so much. Because they really need to get it in hand, like globally, not just in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has come down to the people that are running the PGMOL and through a lot of the refereeing organizations, especially in Europe, have gone from looking at these laws as nuanced parts of the game of football, and they've just become linguists and like, okay, this is what this says, and this is all that there is. There's nothing. If it's not written here, then I can't do anything with it. And it's something that I think that's been the biggest trouble with VAR, especially in England. There's when they're drawing the lines on offsides, or when they're trying to somehow have these commentators do these mental gymnastics to explain how this nearly identical foul is is a red card versus one that's not even given a free kick half an hour apart from each other. It's wild to me how you can't have even that modicum of consistency, because and you see it in the refereeing of all sports. You're going to have certain guys that have certain biases, and I'm not going to sit here and do the whole like, oh, David Cootie is a Manchester guy, so he wants to fuck over all the non-Manchester teams, blah blah blah, stuff like that. There's people that look at the game differently, where they see certain contact and go, that's part of a set piece, how that goes down. There's going to be certain contact there, and there's other people that have maybe came into the game later that see it differently. And you're never gonna have that uniform. Everybody sees play A as this across the board. There's always going to be that. But the simple things that VAR was supposed to help in terms of offsides more than anything, in terms of just pace of play issues of what it with this guy was. Now I'm trying to like find these weird examples, and I'm just going to stop because it's going to go down a rabbit hole that my brain is just going to melt from. But there was simple things that VAR was meant to get calls right. And it wasn't supposed to supersede the referees. It wasn't supposed to be something that took 8 minutes to really just nail down a certain call. It was supposed to be like, hey, man, I think you may have missed this. You got a bad angle on this. Maybe you go take a look at this. And then that's that. The guy goes, looks, boom. They either agree that what the other person saw they saw it from a different angle, or they were able to get a better view of it than they did from where they were on the pitch, and you fix it, or you go, no, I disagree, and here's why, and you have that little bit of discourse, takes about 30 seconds, and then we're moving on. Now there's just, and we go back to the whole fiasco of the Tottenham game, and you hear the panic in these guys' voices because you go, well, he had to say it. He had to say it this way, and like, wait, no, but are you talking about this and that? And it just turns into like a crappy vaudeville sketch from 1910, and you're going like, no, just you can talk to each other, and you can kind of just be like, hey, this is what I saw. You can either go look at the monitor and we can go at this, or you can just go, the call's as it stands, and we're moving on with our lives. The over VARification of VAR is the worst part of VAR. It shouldn't have this much to it. So if they stripped some of it away, I think it would help a lot. But I think and this where it goes to the corruption part, there's so many people that need to keep jobs that you need 7 guys in the VAR booth. And like, what's the point? You can't have 2 guys with 2 cameras, a guy that's a third party, and then the assigned referee of the day. There you go. There's your thing. They're looking at the stuff. They're watching the game the entire time. And then when the call comes in, be like, hey, guys, did you get a good look at that? Obviously, they got a good look at it. They got 19 fucking monitors in front of them. They have every single perceivable camera angle. Yeah, if they didn't get a good look at it, then maybe those people shouldn't do VAR anymore.
Yeah, you can just almost see them going, oh, this is a nice bit of slow piece of action. Just going to get this roast beef sandwich here. Oh, crap. What did I miss?
No donuts. What? Hey, bring the donuts.
But it is an argument that's going to go on for a while because they don't look like they're going to fix it anytime soon. So they will remain the villains of the piece, much like the villains we're going to play on Monday. Nice segue there. Work in television, do I? Yes, I do. But yes, Brian, we're playing Villa on Monday. It's not an early morning game unless they try and change that to early Monday morning. But it's an evening game for Liverpool. Now, Aston Villa got knocked out with the European Conference tonight, this afternoon, whichever way you want to look at it. We know bitterly that as much as we want to be philosophical about it, that kind of a loss in Europe when it was such a big deal for your season can derail it really, really quickly and really, really obviously. Villa still have something to play for. We kind of have pride. Klopp's last 2 games, maybe an outside chance of second place. We're secure into the Champions League places. But for Villa, are they liable to suffer a hangover? Because if nothing else for us as Liverpool fans, what we really want now is 2 victories on the trot to say goodbye to Klopp, don't we? And a weakened Villa side or a psychologically damaged one would be a good one to play.
I mean, I think that Villa's got a lot of injury issues at the moment too, right there. So I mean, they got a lot of problems right there, which is why they came there, got beat the way they did. I mean, they were basically gone in the first leg, and then the first opening 15 minutes of their match, they played like Liverpool in our first opening 15 minutes. It's got bounced out real quick and 2-0 over with, done, fixtures over with, and move on. But I think that I think the one thing we have to look at with them is if Burnley gets any type of result on Saturday against Spurs, it's a rubber stamp match. I mean, just like our matches right there, because Spurs have to go in there and win completely. Have to at least try to win out to go in there to actually even get there, to even get to the 4th spot. Which I don't think they're going to anyway, because Spurs have to play City next week. So I think that's done. But I think that Villa, more or less, like you said right there, was probably a lot more pride right there for them to play and to go there just to get that 1 point. Because really, they could, if Spurs went out, they need 2 points right there to go there and make sure they have Champions League secured. So out of their next 2 matches, they need 2 points. I mean, give or take what happens with it right there. But like we're talking like on Monday. Play everybody. I don't even care right now. Right there, we're done. Get these guys right there who've been fringe players right there who've given everything for Klopp and stuff like that for the past like couple years. Let these guys play. I mean, let's go ahead and let's put these guys out there. I mean, I wish we could recall Reese Williams and and have him play. I wish we could recall let Adrian play. I mean, let these guys play. I mean, it's like it's the end of an era right there. I want to see as much as I want to see Liverpool win. I want to win out. I want to see us actually pay tribute to everybody who's given their blood, their blood and guts right there for these past couple years. I mean, to the squad, that under Klopp. So, I mean, I know we can't get some of our on loan players that who are there, but all these other guys right there who, some of the kids who played in the cup match right there a couple months ago. Let those guys play. I mean, except for Bobby Clark who's injured, but more or less right there, I want us to go in there and go out in a congratulatory like kind of mood right there for the end of this era.
Do you think, to kind of cycle back to the start of the show, do you think this will be a game for guess who's back? Hey. Back again. Trevor's back. Here's a pen. See, I made it rhyme. So I'll ask the question to Trevor then as well. I'll go to Brian first. Cycling back to the start of the show, do you think this would be a great game for Darwin Núñez to show, number one, that he wants to be a part of the plans, and for the away fans who are always a fantastic set to show Darwin Núñez that as much as he might frustrate us and make us tear our hair out, we still want him to do well, and he's still one of us.
Well, I mean, with the way Villa's defense is right now, with half of them sitting back and hanging, talking to Thiago like across and saying, "Hey, how's your injury bench over there? Oh, ours is right here." I think it's a good match for Núñez. Hey, maybe Núñez will get that hat trick that you've been waiting for a while. So I think this is a good match for, again, I think it's a perfect match for Núñez to come in and actually shine, have the entire pitch right there, clap him off right there. No Andy Carroll like calls that they make and stuff like that. A lot of the way stadiums and all that. Just let the guy play right there. Just give him an applaud right there. Say, hey, you know what? We got you, man. We may come there. We got you as a person. That's all it really takes right there. I mean, with it, but. Again, like I said, I want fringe players to play. Gally said the same thing. I said the same thing. Let people play.
How many donuts did we say Anand had to eat?
Anand has to eat a dozen donuts right there because Thiago never even stepped on the pitch, yet scored in there for the entire time. And Anand owes me. He owes me.
Well, what would you say to this deal, Brian? If Núñez gets that hat trick on Monday, I will eat Anand's dozen donuts next Thursday for him.
Wow. I tell you, I would say right there that if Núñez gets a hat trick, I will participate in that match.
And then Anand would always both.
Hey, I think we need to go to make a guest on our last Thursday show right there for the season, eating his donuts instead of his Friday morning stuff.
Trevor, coming into that Villa game, Brian said he wants to see everybody play. I don't have any issue with that. But for these last 2 games, if anybody has gone into, probably not Klopp, but probably Michael Edwards or John Henry or what's his name, Mike Gordon or whatever, the front office, as you guys call it over here, and said, you know what, I'd rather be somewhere else this time next season. So if somebody comes in with an offer, please listen to it and let me know. If Klopp is aware of those players, for the last 2 games, should we not even see them on the bench?
Well, maybe if you want to shop window any of them, then do that. But if it's something where you don't think you're going to increase any value by putting them on the pitch, then send them on their way with best regards. My thing with these last couple matches is I kind of just want it to almost be like playground football at this point. Just kind of get people out there that could be a part of the future, or ones that you think could just make these last two games really fun. I don't need to just see the same old shit at this point. As much as when I go to concerts, I don't want to hear the new stuff. I'm of the reverse mindset right now.
Shut up and play the hits.
I want to listen to the new record these last two games.
The experimental prog rock B-side you've always wanted.
I want to see you work a vuvuzela into your songs. I maybe play a harpsichord. Do I entirely know what a harpsichord is? Probably not, but play it. And who would be more than a football version of a harpsichord than a Darwin Nunez hat trick that just causes a donut party? Yes, Darwin, be our harpsichord. Just go for it. I don't want there to be anything left behind at this point, especially if God forbid this is his final two games as well. Yeah, just let it rip, brother.
Brian, give me a score prediction and who you think would be the standout player for that game.
I'm going to go with a 4-0. I think that this Villa squad is so demoralized at the moment right there, and I just don't think that I think that we are just on this high. We've already come there, won the championship. We have nothing to play for, and especially if we play like the first half we played last week right there, where it was just free flowing football. I mean, against Spurs, I don't think they have a chance right there. And I think our star player right there is going to be one Darwin Nunez. I think that he is going to come out there, and I think he's going to say, hey, you know what? Dust off my shoulder, just go out there, just go and play right there. And then when he gets done, he's going to go out there and have just a picture of like the ball from the hat trick right there, right on his Instagram right there. It says, this is what I did. And then he's probably going to claw back to say, hey, start eating donuts.
Trevor, score prediction and your star player.
Timuchin special, because as much positivity I want to bring to these last two games, I cannot in good conscience predict a clean sheet. And
you don't do them. That's true.
Yeah. And I think this is, if there's a non-Darwin guy that I think is going to get the most out of these last two games in terms of just letting things fly, it's going to be Harvey Elliott. I think he's earned these last two games, even if he's playing with kids, and we forget the fact that he is a kid in his own right. I want to see Harvey just kind of get all of that freedom overlap. If Mo for some reason is up there still, getting all that overlappage and just getting some pop shots, because we know that he can really put some pressure on keepers. And the Villa's defense is not going to make things easy on if it ends up being Martinez, because he's kind of banged up, or if it is Robin Olsen. I don't foresee either keeper having that fun of a time on Monday.
I'm going to Alan says 3-1, and he says quite rightly, press that like button now and make sure you're subscribing. But my score prediction is going to be 5-1 with that Darwin Nunez hat trick, and the star player is going to be Endo, because he's going to be the rock on which that hat trick will be built. And Stephen Cook says 3-0. It's time to get a clean sheet, but To be fair, Stephen,
That time was like 2 months ago.
our defense has more holes than the donuts we're going to eat next Thursday, probably. So with that said, number one, there's no fantasy show tonight because the Polish Prince and Gali also wore grey t-shirts, so they're banned from having a show immediately after me and Brian. The fashion rules of American Scouser TV. They're both indisposed, so there will be a return next week, maybe for that show. We have our morning coffee tomorrow morning. We have a pre and post match. I'm going to be sure on Monday, as well as the Monday morning coffee show. Like and subscribe us on all the socials, on the YouTube, on the Instagram, on the X formerly known as Twitter, and on Facebook. And then also we have our Patreon. Join our Patreon and get all the extra good goodies. And talking of extra good goodies, we also have a giveaway.
Ooh, yeah.
We are involved in a giveaway for a signed Jurgen Klopp Liverpool jersey, framed as well. For a crime it didn't commit, but it's worth looking into our Instagram page. It's worth looking into our Instagram page and doing what you need to do to get yourself involved in that, because it is a fantastic giveaway, if we do say so ourselves. So it just remains to say then for this evening, thank you to Brian. Thank you to Trevor for, as always, the time devoted to this technological nonsense that we never get right. But to be fair, it went well tonight. Brian.
I was about to say, my internet held out. But guess what? Only 2 more weeks right there, and bye, Starlink. It
behaved well for you tonight, so that maybe bodes well for the Monday result for the game. We'll be back then. We will be back next Thursday at the very least, and we'll see how many donuts we can fit in, and how many donuts Anand will have to eat as backup, just in case. But we will see you next week. It is time, as always, Thursday evening. Enjoy your weekends. From Trevor and Brian and myself to say peace out. And for the second last time under the Klopp regime, here's the 70s porn.